Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Score podcast. I am Harry, and Josh, how we doing today?
What's going on, Harry? Things are good over here. Happy 10 months to Savastapasta.
Happy 10 months to Savastapasta?
That's what I call my young one.
Savastapasta. Okay. Savastapasta. I like that. That's a good one. I'm going to stick to Savannah because I like first names. But since you are her father, you can call her whatever you want. So, but on other news, we got to just get into things here because something kind of blew our minds a little bit here as we were getting into the studio. Bill Belichick will be coaching in 2025, but not for a team you probably would think. He's going to be coaching for the UNC Tar Heels in 2025, making that shift from the NFL to college. This is crazy, in my opinion. I mean, I just couldn't expect this to happen. I would have never thought in any reality he'd make this jump from the NFL to collegiate, but it's happened. I'm certain he's going to get paid a ton of money to do this, and he's probably going to get a lot of things that are given to him maybe in that contract. Say, here's this, your family and your grandchildren could go to UNC for the rest of their lives, all those good stuff. I mean, I think this is crazy, but, you know, it's part of the new NFL, new football landscape, and, you know, he's going to be coaching college football. This is wild stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he was working in the NFL in some capacity for 48 years. Then he's not working for 1 year, and I guess he missed football. I mean, his dad was an assistant at UNC in the 50s, so I don't know if that has a special place in his heart or anything, but this is definitely not where I expected him to go.
Well, special places you would think like, okay, well, he was a DC for the Giants, which most of us Giants fans were in the back of our heads. We were hoping that there might be a chance that he would coach the Giants. And I think there was a real consideration, you know, with obviously how their season's going, the Giants. And, you know, listen, Bill Belichick is the greatest head coach in the history of football. And he's probably one of the greatest head coaches in all of sports for what he's done so far. This is going to be a new task for him to be able to uncover. I think it's going to be super difficult. I think that this is going to be something that is going to be, you know, harder for him to be able to manage through than, you know, let's say this happened 5 years ago, right? Obviously, he was coaching the NFL 5 years ago, but if he did this 5 years ago, it would be a little different. Now you have the transfer portals and all these players getting all this NIL money, and it's a lot more personalities to be able to maneuver through. You know, maybe UNC says or sees this as stability for, you know, someone of such a great head coach coming in here, and maybe he'll bring some order in the house. I don't know, but I'm excited to see how much he's getting paid.
I'm not on the same wavelength with you as that. I'm not on the same wavelength as you about that. I think that you look at Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick walks in the room and he says, "Hey, do you want to be an NFL player?" And if Bill Belichick says that to you, is there any other coach in college football that you can have more confidence in to get you exactly what you need to be not only an NFL player, but to be successful in the league? And he's quoted from his time on Pat McAfee's show saying, if I was in a college program, it would be a pipeline to the NFL that had the players that had the ability to play in the NFL. It would be a professional program, training, nutrition, scheme coaching, and techniques would transfer to the NFL. So it doesn't seem like he's taking this lightly. It doesn't seem that he's just getting the next available job. It seems like he's really thought about this, and maybe he's looking at the product on the field, and maybe he doesn't like what he sees, so he wants to have a little impact, or maybe he does like what he sees, but he knows that he could teach people fundamentals better, because you and I both know that the tackling difference is probably the biggest difference from the college to the NFL, besides maybe quarterback play. But some of these tackles that these guys miss are just crazy, and if you got Bill teaching fundamentals, you know that team's not going to miss very many tackles.
You know, it's tough to say. Listen, Bill Belichick's a fantastic head coach, and all the things that he could say on Pat McAfee are obviously going to be things that he's going to say that he wants to implement. But what I'm saying here is that in today's society, it's much more difficult to be able to grasp a type of person like Bill Belichick. You could go walk into that room and say, hey, you want to get to the NFL? Of course they all want to get to the NFL. Who's going to say no? You could say, you know, he's in that same conversation with Nick Saban. Now, Nick Saban's not coaching, but who knows when he gets back into the mix of things and if he's going to coach again, whether that's collegiate or NFL. I highly doubt he gets to the NFL stage, but who knows after this point when you see Bill doing this, anything is possible, right? Regardless of that, you know, the coaching aspect of things has changed so much in sports, where that dominant figure doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot of great. Stability sounds great to us, to you and I. We love stability. But for these players who have these personalities, they want someone who's going to be, I guess the way to put it would be, hold their hand and walk them through it instead of putting their head to the ground and say, let's crawl. And so Bill Belichick is that type of guy. Might be a horrible comparison, but I'm going to compare it, right, with our Yankees. Aaron Boone is that type of coach, right, where he'll hold your hand and put your hand on his shoulders and say, I'm here for you. Girardi was not that type of guy, and that's why Girardi's no longer coaching, because he was that stern figure, and players didn't really want that. They wanted someone that they can go into the office and say, hey, Aaron, I'm feeling this way. Can you help me through it? Girardi wasn't that guy. And I see that with Bill Belichick. Now, they're not the same. Bill Belichick is he's going to be able to make a lot of great things happen in UNC with a lot of these players, but it's a much more difficult landscape. And regardless of the fact is, when you're dealing with players who are making money now, and UNC might be a little bit more intriguing because he's there, it's still an uphill battle to be able to say he's going to put out a competitive team that's going to be, vying for a championship next season in football. That's unrealistic in my expectations now. Maybe 5 years down the line, who knows? But he's older too. So really,
See,
all
but I
it's going to
think
depend on what the real vision is. I mean, if you tell me that you think UNC is going to make the college playoffs next season, or at least in the top 4, top 5, I'd say that's a whole lot of horseshit. But listen, a lot of players could come and go, and we'll see what happens next
I
year.
have
We
to
still have a lot
challenge
of
you.
time.
I have
I'd
to
love
challenge you
challenges.
on that
Yeah,
because someone who's been through NFL free agency and seeing what guys want when you could give them money, give them compensation packages, give them deals, and work rosters. I think that he's actually ahead of the other coaches because he's had to do all that already. And now I think your point is actually favoring the opposite side because him having the portal makes it easier to get to look at the talent of these guys and see exactly who he needs to make a good football team in his scheme. And it's just about if the guys go, sure. And if the guys don't go, then the guys don't go. And then I'm sure that UNC will want to part ways with him just as much as he'll not want to be a part of it. But I don't see that being the situation. I think that he'll look at every single position and know exactly what he needs for his scheme. And I think that being able to have NIL money, to have the transfer portal, as well as have the high school pipeline, I think that he's going to do a great job. And I think that you could expect them to be a playoff team relatively soon because of the portal. Also, you think that the money that this drives, the playoffs only going to get bigger. So maybe if you look at it as 12 teams, maybe 5 years down the line, it's 20 teams and he'll have already been in it a couple times. You don't know, but it's something that's fascinating. And I think that we could kind of put a bow on that. But I think that you really look at Bill Belichick as a successful football coach. And if he has the influence that he has, then I don't think that there'll be an issue with him translating very quickly.
well, I mean, you challenged me, so I gotta have to obviously get back into it. But you have
Yeah,
over 100 players on your team. It's easy to say that there's going to be a lot of people, and I'm going to say at least 10 to 15 of these guys are going to leave because they don't want to. They don't want to play under Bill Belichick. The truth is, he's stern, and a lot of these players, regardless of talent, they don't want to be coached by someone who's going to be up there, and always sniffing around. I would prefer that. I think that's the right way to coach. But in today's society, with what these players are doing nowadays, I mean, yes, the money landscape in the NFL is what it is, and he's obviously been able to maneuver through it. There have been a lot of cases though where he's botched a lot of things with these contract negotiations in the NFL. So we'll see how it plays out. I mean, listen, Bill Belichick is the top 2 greatest football coach minds of all time. Minds, I'm speaking. Him and Nick Saban are up there. So
mm,
it'll be interesting to see, but I find it hard to believe that he just didn't evaluate every single opportunity that he could have had in 2025. Maybe in the NFL, something else would have opened up that would have made more sense for him. It's going to be so hard to see him coaching college, and I think that's more of a personal thing. But we'll leave it past that. I mean, this is breaking news. This just happened, at least in terms of solidifying the contract. And once we get the numbers, I mean, I'm excited to kind of discuss how much he's getting paid too, because I'm certain it's going to be a lot of money. It's probably going to be a big deal, maybe like a 7, 8 year deal, paying him 12, 13 million bucks a year. It's probably what it's going to be, and he deserves that type of money
let me
because he's
throw
Bill
let
Belichick.
me throw one last thing out there. That would you rather go to a college where you can get a reset every couple of years, or jump into an organization that's an absolute dumpster fire that has so many bad contracts that you're stuck for 6, 7 years. Well, not 6, 7 years, but like maybe 4, 5, 6 years, and you're handcuffed, and then you can't make the right moves to build it.
Well, that's
That's
why
what I'm.
he's had a couple. He would have a couple of years to be, or at least one full year to be able to decide what team has the best option. I mean, you look at the Giants; they're going to have a lot of money next season, so that would have made a lot of sense. Now, are the Giants going to fire their head coach? Are they going to actually go down that road? We'll never know now. But there were opportunities. If you wanted to go and Giants are going to have a top 2 pick. They're going to have a ton of money, new start, new quarterback, all that good stuff. Malik Neighbors, potential on the defense. Anyways, I'm just talking because I'm a Giants fan at this point.
Yeah,
There would have been other opportunities in the NFL. If he wanted to coach in the NFL, I guarantee you there would have been 10 teams lined up and said, listen, we'd love to at least talk about it. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I wish him the best. I think he's going to, I don't think it's going to be something that he's going to do succeed right away, but who knows? If he's there for 5 years, a lot can happen. Maybe he figures it out.
yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. And, if I'm wrong, we're going to talk about it again on this podcast when next season's football season begins, or at least gets into the playoffs. We're going to get into
I
it.
believe in you, Bill.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that. My team beat him twice in the Super Bowl, so it's tough for me to always give him the belief. But we'll see. We'll see. But let's get
Is that
into
like
our
20
picks.
years ago?
What? 15.
I remember those days.
We'll leave it at that. It's good old times, So, but let's quickly just recap our picks. Wasn't a great week for me, at least. I picked the Bears, and they got blown out by the Niners because the Bears stink. But I took a chance, and now I know that I'm not going to take plus money anymore on these teams. So, my pick this week is going to be the Cincinnati Bengals -5 against the Titans. I think, I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals just went out the rest of the season. I think that's a high possibility with the schedule that they have remaining. Doesn't mean that they're going to make the playoffs, but, they could go 9-8. They're right now 5-8, so we'll see what happens. Burrow is questionable now, so that's going to obviously deter a lot. But I think if Burrow plays, this is going to be a game in the bag for the Bengals.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about my Jamar Chase touchdown hit, because that was the pick I was focused on. I'm honestly a little zonked because I cleared the dock, but my other pick did not hit. I was not happy about it, but it was the Bills -5.
Right. Yeah, I was actually going to say
put
that.
up, they put up 42 points and they lost, so there's nothing else to talk about besides just frustration about that. But Jamar Chase, incredible performance on Monday Night Football once again. Harry, I'm so surprised that you're still rocking with these Bengals, but this week I'm gonna rock with the Chargers -3. I think that the Buccaneers have had a super cupcake schedule the last couple weeks, boosting them up a little bit. Maybe they're feeling themselves a little bit, but I think the Chargers' elite defense will be able to contain them.
Two good picks. I mean, the Bengals are a top 5 team offensively in the NFL this season, but they're 5-8. So I think the Titans, they're going to have their fair share of struggles when they have Joe Burrow in the face of their defense. So we'll see what happens, but we'll bring you guys the recaps next week. Let's move on from our picks. Let's get into a lot of the big news that's happened in the baseball world. We already know what's happened last week, or at least a few days ago. Juan Soto is a Met, and I wish him nothing but shit. But that's what happens when you decide to go to the crosstown rivals. And there's a lot of things that have happened, and we can kind of discuss the positives and the negatives of this Juan Soto thing. But it doesn't make sense to really get into the nitty gritty of the Juan Soto deal itself. He got a lot of money. He got a lot more than what we thought. And listen, I'm going to say this real quick. Obviously, during the regular season or even during the playoffs and the World Series, we were saying, pay the man, give him $1 billion, lifetime contract, all that stuff. Because in that moment, that's what you feel like. When he does something magical in that moment, that's what you feel. But when you have a moment to really think in hindsight and look and see, all right, let's take a step back for a second. Let's really consider what's worth it and what's not worth it. And the truth is, the Yankees put out an offer that also was not worth it, and they lost in that bidding, which is not a bad thing at all, right? It's not a bad thing for all the Yankee fans out there who are still so mourning the fact that he's no longer a Yankee. It is not the end of the world. I promise you, it is not. Because they are hungry, and you know this, Josh, they're going out there with a vengeance, and now they're the most dangerous team in free agency because the Mets locked up a lot of money. And from what I'm seeing, the Mets, in terms of what they're looking to do to their rotation, I'm not worried about that team at all. At all.
Yeah.
So whatever Soto thinks is going to happen over the next 15 years, you got your bag, enjoy your sweets, that your family has now, but I think you made a very big mistake in the selection of what team you wanted to play for the rest of your career. So, $805 million is a lot of money. We were sitting here thinking he was going to fall in that 6 to 650 range, and he got a ton more than that. So,
Yeah.
good for him. I mean, Scott Boras, this is what I also wanted to mention. Scott Boras last season, everyone was saying he needs to finish. He needs to be done with what he's doing. And then he goes out there and gets Juan Soto $805 million. Scott Boras is the best agent in all of sports, and this is the reason why. So I'll let you say what you have to say about Soto, and we'll kind of get into the rest of the baseball stuff.
Yeah, I don't really have too much, honestly, on this because we knew from day one that it was all about the money. I think that it's very soft of Boris Camp to leak the security guard and these sweets things out to try and make him not look like. I don't think he looks like a jerk, but a lot of people think he's a jerk for taking the most money. But you knew that going in, the expectation was set properly. I wish he enjoys his time over there. I don't know how much success they're going to have because it's 15 years. It's a long time. Uh, Kenzie will be in college when he's done with his contract. It's just crazy for me to think about. But
It's crazy.
I did the one thing about it that I got a little satisfaction about, which I'm sure it'll be the next thing we talk about anyway, is I saw this 8-second video of Juan Soto looking absolutely fooled by a Max Fried curveball, and that made me very happy.
I saw that too. Yeah, no, that's it's nice to see that the Yankees right after that because you knew, right, when that type of move happens and you're the team that lost out, you got to go and rebound real quick because you have a demoralized fan base, and when you go out and make a signing like Max Fried, that makes you feel a lot better. Now, the Yankees didn't necessarily need to add a starter; it wasn't something that they were desperate for. But when that $760 million that you offered to Soto's now sitting in your bank account still, you can go and give that to a lot of players. And so this is a great move for the Yankees to add that type of lefty to their rotation and being a number 2 guy. And, listen, I know that in our discussions with our Yankee group chat, I said I'd rather have Corbin Burns. But don't get me wrong, Max Fried is a great option too. And,
Yeah.
listen, the contract, it's a lot of money. But I don't think it's overly exaggerated in terms of the
Nah, it's
overall
fine.
number.
Yeah, it's
He's getting
fine.
paid 27, 20. He's getting his average annual is less than Carlos Rodon. So in my
Yeah.
opinion, that's not even that bad of a deal. He's 30 years old. We could see pitchers in 36, 37 still produce some great stuff. So I expect them to have a fantastic career. And I love the fact that, they went out and got someone like him, and they're going to be able to make some other big moves happen. So, listen, Juan Soto, you're going to have a lot of struggles when you come play the Yankees because when you got to face guys like Rodon, and we know that, he hits lefties well. We know that. But it's going to be a lot harder when you have elite lefties and that rotation the Yankees have. It's filthy, man. It really is. I'm super excited to see how they're going to end up turning out. But, they still have a lot of work in front of them, especially offensively and especially in that bullpen. I think the bullpen needs a lot of work. But once they
Yeah.
start adding those pieces in, it's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to discuss some of these, our wish list, let's just say, right, of who we want. Obviously Max Fried is now on the Yankees, and that, takes into consideration some of the money that we had in our wish list. But, there's some, excuse me, there's some really sound options there overall on the board. And I think the Yankees can really assemble a very good team as long
Yeah.
as, they make those right decisions. So, what do you have to say about Max Fried, though? I mean, he's a great talent, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to talk all that game to Juan Soto because now he's on a team we play 4 times a year, so it's not really relevant. Best of luck to you on your way, and we'll focus on being the evil empire. Max Fried, I think, was an amazing move. I think that getting Corbin Burns, I don't really understand why people are projecting him so much more money when Max Fried has been the lowest ERA of any pitcher in baseball since 2020. I think that you have to look at what he's done. Yeah, maybe he's got a little injury history, but nothing that overly concerns me. I think that he can't do it, especially a crafty lefty as they get older. They're smart pitchers. But I had a cool thought to put together a wish list, like you said, that all the guys that I want to see the Yankees get, and I wanted to tell you something cool about it. So Max Fried was on it. I wasn't on the Corbin Burns wave. I want to see Teoscar 4 for 80, Christian Walker 3 for 72, Tanner Scott 4 for 68. I'm not expecting to keep up with this. There's a point where I'm saying the values though. I want to trade with Bellinger and Nico Horner to come to the Yankees, but trade Stroman in the deal, so that takes a little money away. part of the money that I'm counting in this is cutting DJ LeMahieu's 2 for 30. Um, Carlos Estevez to the bullpen, Griffin Jack's trade from the Twins, Mason Miller. You know how I feel about him, all of you that listen. Justin Martinez, another nasty reliever from the Diamondbacks. And I say extend Jazz. Give him, I say 9 by 162. I think get that other trade acquisition locked up, that loves being a Yankee, that really thrived here, and it is something that we need. We expected a little more speed production out of Volpe, and I think that if he's not the main guy to lean on for steals and Jazz is, I think that Volpe will have a little easier time as well. And I think that just all together, all those people together is $724 million spent over the life of their contracts. So yeah, I'm not going to say that I wasn't ready for Juan Soto to get whatever money from us and be super excited about it. But when you look at and after we trade Luis Hill for King Tuck, I think that Tomiyuki Sugano, 3 for 42, Japanese pitcher, 724 million for all those guys for all the life of their contract. I'm not going to say that I didn't want Juan Soto, blank check, all that. I was on board, ready to get him, but now you look at that, that's kind of every day I'm getting a little more clarity that if the Yankees make moves, I'll be happy going into next year.
Sure,
So,
absolutely. Now, I wanted to
yeah.
ask you, though, what does DJ LeMahieu's contract situation have anything to do with their salary?
It's just the point that taking on that money now, putting it with all those other moves that I said, you still are under 760 million for the life of all these contracts. It has nothing to do with all that in terms of it has nothing to do with all that in terms of the roster configuration, but
Well, if they cut him, they're paying him still.
No, but I'm saying you just being bold, taking that roster spot, using it for something else, eating that money,
Okay.
just all of it together is $724 million. When you include $30 million to DJ, that we will never see a player on the field for.
No,
I think you look
I
at
respect that.
yeah. It's more about just trying to grasp the sheer amount of money that Juan Soto will be getting. And don't get me wrong, none of these guys are 15 years, so I'm not saying that Juan Soto is getting $100 million a year. But I think when you look at it, that this amount of money can be used for a lot of firepower for a team that was criticized for not doing the little things right. I think we can fix that.
You know, the one thing I will say, though, I liked a lot of the things. I have a few of those guys on the same list as I do. I'm not really looking to trade Luis Hill, and I know that Kyle Tucker is a stud. I would love Kyle Tucker on my team, but Luis Hill's getting paid $800,000, and I think there's potential for him to be a top 3 in any rotation over the next few years. Sure. And the fact that he's getting paid so little, I don't want to trade that. I don't want to trade, and I know that's where the value is as well. You know, he's the rookie of the year. He's getting paid so little. That's why it seems like it's a very likely scenario to happen. Now, let me go to my list because I did it a little differently. Instead of the $700 million, what I did was I'm assuming the Yankees are comfortable getting to about $300 million in terms of their payroll for the year. So that's the way I did it. I wanted Corbin Burns on a 5 and a 145 deal. It seems like he's going to get way more than that. This was also last week, but this was only if they moved on some of these other starters. Now, he's getting more than that. It's obvious. I was looking at a shorter term deal. If he was going to take it, he's going to get way more than 5 for 145. We're going to scratch that because he's no longer even going to be in contention unless the Yankees did some crazy stuff and they said, you know what, we're going to go and get him as well. But there would be a lot that would need to happen if they were going to actually consider making that type of route. I love Teoscar. I have him at a 375 or a 4 for 88 type of deal. I did also put in parentheses that he could also get more than this because of the fact that he just won the World Series and he's that type of caliber of player where in big moments he steps up. So I think a lot of the teams that are on the cusp of being a playoff team are going to be looking at him and saying he's going to help us get to that next level on top of the fact that he's also a very good player. But I would love to have Teoscar there. Christian Walker, I know you had him at 3 for 72. I have him getting paid a lot less than that. I have him getting paid 3 for 51 or a 2 for 39 type of deal. That 2 for 39 could include an option of some sort. Now,
I just want to throw that in there. I don't mean to cut you off.
It's fine.
There was a report earlier today that the Yankees are looking at 65 to 70. So
no, yeah, I could see him getting more. Now the truth is it really worth getting to that number? It could be. I think that, the truth is you have options. And I think if you couldn't get to the number that you were comfortable with in terms of Christian Walker, you can make a move for Bellinger and put him at first base. I also like another cheaper option on a 1-year deal. I like Josh Bell on a 1-year, $12 million deal. He's a switch hitter. He's a solid hitter overall. He's got some pop in that bat. He plays a decent first base. And on a 1-year deal, it takes away all the risk. And then you could reassess your first base position after that. Now, I would much prefer to have Christian Walker. I would much prefer to have Cody Bellinger, especially because Bellinger's on a 1 to 2 year deal, and he's not getting paid too much in terms of, what he could be getting if he was a free agent. So, it's all going to depend. I would go Walker, Bellinger, and Josh Bell in terms of first base. I love Tanner Scott, 4 for 56. He's probably going to get closer to what you said, but in between 56 and 68 is probably where he's going to end up trending. Yeah. I want Tommy Kahnle back in that bullpen on a 1-year deal for $6.25. I want Jeff Hoffman for a 2-year deal for $12.5 million. And I really want the Yankees to trade for Alec Bohm, because there's rumors out there, which means that the Phillies are open to it. If that means the Phillies are open to it, they got to really consider it, because Bohm is team friendly in terms of the contract, and I'm certain a deal could be made around him. He's a fantastic glove, and I think his offense is only going to get better, and I think he'd fit perfectly on this team. Considering that the other options are Nolan Arenado and Alex Bregman, I think Alec Bohm is a home run compared to those guys, salary-wise, because I'm thinking about all those things as well. Now, these things also take into consideration that you're moving Nestor Cortez and you're moving Marcus Stroman, and you're relieving those contracts, because those two, Stroman's due over $18 million this season, and he's got that vesting option next season that's already kicked in. And Nestor Cortez is going to be estimated to make about $7.5 to $8 million this season. So that's about $26 million that could come off the books, because right now, prior to Max Fried, their projected payroll was around $230 with their arbitration, their pre-arbitration, and everybody like that. Max Fried takes them to about $256. You take out the 25 from Stroman and Nestor, you're back down to like $230-ish, right? And now you have $70 million still, and that's already including Max Fried on your roster. Mm-hmm. You have a lot of opportunity to make some great moves happen here. It's just a matter about doing them, right? Obviously, there's a whole evaluation process the front office is going to take, but there is a path to assemble a team that would be better suited to win the World Series than it would have been if you signed Juan Soto. Because look at the Mets, right? They signed him, and they're not even in the Corbin Burns sweepstakes. If I'm the Mets, I'm concerned, because I look at my rotation, I'm like, Kodai Senga, and then what? Frankie Montas, Clay Holmes? Clay Holmes is in the Mets rotation? What? That's crazy. And now they're saying that their number 1 and 2 options that they're looking for in terms of free agent pitching is bringing back Sean Manaea, which I would think would make sense, and Nick Pivetta. They lose out on Garrett Crochet, which we're going to talk about now as well in a little bit. But it seems like they're not doing anything for their rotation. Maybe they are waiting on Roki Sasaki as well. He's going to make the decision on where he wants to go, because the money's going to be essentially the same wherever he goes for the next 2 years. So it's not going to be a money decision for Roki right now. It's going to be future of the team, potential endorsements, and development of him to get to the next level and earn a Yamamoto type of contract. But there is a path. Tanner Scott would be beautiful. Mason Miller, please. I would love it. Devin Williams. We can name off a bunch of other guys that would make perfect sense. But I think this list would make optimal sense to consider that, listen, you're going to have more options next season. This isn't just a 1-year thing. You have free agency next season. So keep your options open. And if you can do that, I mean, next season, you're not going to have too much money coming off the books, right? Stanton, his contract goes down, which will give you a little bit more of a cushion, which is nice. His overall value will go down, and the Marlins start paying him. So that's going to help a little bit too. But this gets you to a path to about a $300 million payroll, and it's way better of a roster than it would be if they signed Juan Soto and started picking at some other players around them. But they need to attack the bullpen. They got to do something with that bullpen, because I see Luke Weaver and I see a bunch of guys that, broke out, but are you really that confident that Jake Cousins and Tim Hill are going to be the guys who are going to rock and roll from the 5th to the 8th inning? Consistently, at least. I think they're good relievers. I like them. They're getting paid $800,000, $900,000. Keep them in the bullpen, but you need those heavy hitters. And those heavy hitters are Tanner Scott, Mason Miller, and Devin Williams. You got to get one of those 3 guys. And then you got to bring back Tommy Kahnle. He's been in your bullpen for the last 2 years. He was in your bullpen before that. Bring him back on a 1-year deal. He wants to be a Yankee, and he's pitched well enough to deserve a contract. Jeff Hoffman, another great option. If you could bring him in there, you have a really strong bullpen with 3 guys right there that can really get it done for you. Luke Weaver at the top, fine. Figure out if he's going to be your long-term closer, and then you'll figure it out next offseason if he's worthy of an extension.
Sure, I think that one thing that needs to be noted is I'm not trading Luis without an extension. I think that it's clear that Luis has good stuff, and having this year off of a bunch of injury riddled seasons, if you and that's understating it. I think that I'm as big of a God bless me fan as anyone, but I think that when it comes down to it, if you can get Kyle Tucker on a 12-year, $400 million deal after this year, I think that it's worth trading Luis Heel, who, while being a rookie of the year, is still a little older, but I'd be very happy to keep him. I think that you look at either option is great. Getting him without losing Luis is ideal, but it seems like the Cubs are pushing pretty hard, and that's going to be the piece that's going to make Kyle Tucker come to us. So, him being the sixth starter for us, or maybe the fifth starter, whatever, based on looking at the year Clark had last year, based on some of the other prospects we have, and obviously, I agree with you. Getting rid of Nestor and Stroman is essential for whatever we do this offseason. But I think that you look at Luis Hill, you look at Kyle Tucker. Kyle Tucker had an amazing year last year. He was in walks, he was only behind Judge and Soto, and in the weighted runs created, he was exactly the same as Soto. And I'm not looking to spend 12 years comparing Tucker and Soto, but I think if you can get Kyle Tucker, it's worth Heel. But there's no other player on the trade market, not Tatis, not anyone that I would give him up for besides Kyle Tucker.
I respect that. I think Kyle Tucker's a phenomenal player. I just think that if you're trading Luis Hill, then that means Marcus Stroman is probably going to stay as a Yankee, and you'll probably trade the other lefty, which is Nestor. But you're not going to trade three starters at that point unless you're adding another starter, which I guess could happen too. So it would have to be a scenario that if they're trading Luis Hill and they do have an extension put in place for Kyle Tucker, that they're still open to adding another starter. It doesn't have to be a Corbin Burns, but
Yeah,
you're trading Nestor because you don't need three lefties in your rotation. You have Fried, you have Rodon, and now you have Stroman, who's going to be your, so to speak, number six at that point, right? So you have to make an adjustment at that point. I think
sure.
Stroman doesn't really bring you a lot. I know that he's an innings guy, but he's not going to give you the best baseball down the stretch. So it really would make sense to kind of move him off. But we'll see. I mean, another starter that just came off the books that the Yankees were also in the mix of was Garrett Crochet, and the Mets were interested as well, but he ended up getting traded
Mm.
to the Red Sox for quite a hefty package. They sent off four big-time prospects over the White Sox, so they got a good haul for him. But, it's all about the team control and the salary. That's huge. And so, he's a
Mhm.
talented pitcher, but I hope he is absolutely horrific for the remaining of his Boston Red Sox career.
I think he'll be a Red Sox for a very long time, and I'm very happy about this deal because I think Kyle Teal is an absolute stud, as well as giving up all of those prospects when you had a very bad year. I mean, better than people expected, but I know that to trade for an ace, you want to be an ace away. And I think that you look at their pitching as a whole was terrible. You look at Garrett Crochet's injury history. I just think that they have a lot of prospects. It was kind of something that I was thinking about, that when all these guys come up, it's going to be something to deal with for a very long time. But now they put a bunch of them into what I think is a ticking time bomb, because when you look at a guy like him, why does a guy like that want security so bad? Because he knows he's been through Tommy John. He knows that he gets hurt. That I just I'm just not I I didn't want him if that was the package. Obviously you didn't know the package till it came out, but I would not have wanted to give Dominguez. I would not have wanted to give
Spencer Jones.
Gil, Spencer Jones. Maybe would have done straight up, but I just think you look at this overall as a win for the AL East, because yeah, he'll give them some good innings, but he's I think that Kyle Teal could end up being even a better player overall.
Sure. I think, when you look at it too, they were asking the Red Sox, were asking the Mets for 2 to 3 prospects. Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry. The White Sox were asking the Mets for 2 to 3 prospects. They got four from the Red Sox, and they got four good ones too.
yeah.
So this is a big haul that they sent off, and the White Sox seem like their future is going to be bright.
Yeah, they really needed this.
Whether or not they up Garrett Crochet on a big deal, I think Boston would probably wait at least another year because he's got 2 or 3 years of team control. But their rotation is starting to head in the direction that they probably want, with Tanner Houck also there. His second half wasn't as great as it was the first half, but he's obviously a quality pitcher. So at least they have a 1-2 punch that they think is worthy of putting out there and saying that we have a solid rotation. I want to say otherwise because they gave up so much for it. And like you said, the injury history of Crochet kind of turns me off. I mean, I really wasn't. So, I wouldn't even do Spencer Jones because I like Spencer Jones. I think Spencer Jones could be a Yankee sooner than later. So why give up that type of prospect when he could be helping the offense on this team, which desperately needs it, whether that's at first or in the outfield or whatever it is. I think, listen, I'm open to the idea of trading him, but it would have to be more than Garrett Crochet. I would want someone better than that. I would save that in my back pocket for someone who's actually going to be able to produce things that the Yankees need, which is offense, or maybe a bullpen. I mean, I know you'd definitely do a deal that would be Spencer Jones straight up for Mason Miller. I don't know if I want. I don't know if I want a closer for someone who could be a generational offensive player. And that's coming from someone. But that's also coming from someone who Mariano Rivera is my favorite athlete of all time. I love the man, and I die by Mariano Rivera. And Mason Miller is phenomenal. Don't get me wrong. You could put him out there for 2 innings if you need it. Not every single time. Yeah. Aaron Boone won't do that consistently, but he's been doing it with Luke Weaver, so you never really know. But Spencer Jones, if he's someone who's going to be a 300 hitter with 30 home runs, 100 RBIs, and be that type of generational player, then, I mean, I think that they could figure out other options in the bullpen than having to give that up if Spencer Jones could be that guy, which I see that being. But we still have some time to get to Spencer Jones. He's still got some time. We have to think about Dominguez, who's now going to be starting in 2025, which is a beautiful thing. Yeah. I'm so excited about Dominguez. I really am because I think he's going to do some special stuff. And I think at 21 years old, he could be the next Juan Soto, who's getting paid $800,000 instead of $51 million.
Sorry, you threw me off because you said 800,000.
But that's what he's going to get paid in 2025.
Oh, I thought you were saying like he's going to be the next Juan Soto to get an $800 million contract. That's what I.
No. I meant this. I meant next year's salary at least. I mean, if Juan Soto, if Jason Dominguez in 2025 bats .285 with 30 home runs and 95 RBIs, which is very possible if he stays healthy. Oh boy, the Yankees are going to feel like they did very well by not paying Juan Soto. They're going to feel like they got their guy that is Juan Soto, who's 5 years younger than him, and he's getting paid a whole lot less in The Martian. And I'm excited to see what's going to happen in 2025 with him. He's a generational player too. So they have these guys that are on the cusp of either getting to the majors or or currently on the roster and is going to play. And so there's going to be a lot to see with these younger guys in the Yankees prospect, but. If you're going to be giving up so much to get so much, it's got to be the right deal for sure. It can't be something you could question and say, well, we just got a closer, we just got a reliever or a starter that we might not necessarily have needed. I want that guy that I'm confident in that he's going to be our guy on this team for a long time. Mason Miller would be that guy, but it's a tough pill to swallow. I'm certain if that
I don't see Spencer Jones hitting 300 though.
We'll see. We'll leave it at that.
We'll see.
But another guy that did get a big deal, Willy Adames, who I'm very glad is not a Yankee. But I predicted this when we did our thing, when we reviewed our top free agents. Willy Adames to San Francisco was what I selected. And what did he get again? He got a 9-year deal or 7-year deal.
I thought it was 7 by 182.
7 for 182 is correct. That is exactly what he got. 7 for 182, which is probably what he deserved, but I thought he was overrated, so I'm glad he's in San Francisco. And now they're in deep talks with Corbin Burns, too, over there as well. So looks like San Francisco's trying to cook something up there. I would love nothing more for a team to be able to challenge the Dodgers in that division. They also have the Padres, so good for them over there. And good for Willy Adames. I mean, he got the bag.
Yeah, there's really too much else to say about that. Like, good for him. I think the Giants fan base needed this. They put Buster Posey in charge to make something like this happen, and I think that they're going to make some noise and some impact because they're not just going to let the Dodgers walk all over them.
Sure, this is the biggest contract in franchise history, and Buster Posey was the one who had it before that. So it's funny to say that he was the one who facilitated this move, but. Listen, I think he's overrated, but I don't think he's a bad player. I just think that type of contract for someone who, had an OPS around 780, even though he had 30-plus home runs and had 100-plus RBIs, could he be better? Sure, but I'm going to value you based on what you did last season. I wouldn't have felt comfortable giving him that type of contract, but that's today's baseball, and he's a good shortstop, and he can play third base, so there's that.
It's good for the locker room, too.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think the San Francisco Giants needed that type of move. They got someone that at least they could, help build around and at least help future free agents want to come there as well. So,
For
good for
sure.
them, and hopefully they beat up on those Dodgers and make their
Yeah.
life a little bit hell in that NL West. But Roki Sasaki is that final guy, and the Mariners are a team that seems like they could make a lot of sense. Obviously, some of these bigger clubs want to be in there as well. The Mets, the Dodgers, the Yankees, all these teams are interested. It's not about a money thing. It's about where does he want to play? Where does he see his future development-wise and getting to that next level and all those good stuff. I mean, he's talented, but he's 23 years old. So there's still a long road for him in order to prove what he's really worth in the MLB.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's the one player in the last not the last very long time, like in the in recent history that he has 30 offers on the table.
Right. Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, who wouldn't want to have
Yeah.
someone who? The fact is, that he's not going to get paid an absurd amount of money, so that makes every team in play for him. They all want to be able to get him on the team. Now, you could easily off the bat rule out 20 teams. You're like, those teams just don't make sense for him to be able to go there. They want him, but it's not a money thing. It's not like they can go into their bag and say, well, we'll give you a little bit more to come here. Everybody has to wait because it's 2 years. He's under 25 years old coming from Japan. That's the way it is. But, regardless of the fact is, I said this a couple of weeks ago too, I think he should have stayed in Japan until he was 25, similar to what Yamamoto did, and then cash in on that $300 million. Because if he comes here for those 2 years and he's, good but not great, he's not getting $300 million. He needs to be great to get
I don't
300
care.
million.
I don't care. I love it. I think he wants to face the best in the world. He's going to be a millionaire and he's going to get paid for a very long time. Arguably having the best stuff as a pitcher on the entire planet, which is a hot take, but you got to see it. You got to see it play out with the MLB baseballs, and I think that he's an incredible talent, just like you said. And every team, even the White Sox, are lining up to try and get his services. So it's going to be amazing to see. And I really hope he doesn't go to the Dodgers, just because I want the whole country to be able to appreciate the Japanese talent, not think, oh, Japan and the Dodgers are a pipeline.
Well, I think that the Yankees are a real contender here. I don't see why not. I know that their rotation is pretty stacked right now, but
Big Tanaka fan.
exactly, right? He grew up, he was his idol. So, him, Matsui, all these guys that have played for Japan and as well as for the Yankees, they have a legitimate shot. And, what the Yankees do with their pitching as well is something to consider, right? And I know mostly it comes out of their relievers, but you see Luis Hill, and he does really well. Even Nestor Cortez, right? Who was Nestor Cortez 4 years ago? He was bouncing around from Baltimore to Seattle to the Yankees to Baltimore, and back to the Yankees, and now he's found himself as a quality pitcher. Whether or not he's a number 5 on the Yankees, he'd probably be a number 3 on some of these other rotations. So you see it, and I hope Roki makes the right decision and not go to the Dodgers. If it's any other team other than Boston or the Dodgers, I could live with that. If he goes to the Yankees, I'd be thrilled. We'll see what happens. I'm certain we'll probably get a decision sooner than later because, things he has to wait, right? If he gets past December 13th, he's got to wait a little longer. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Right? It's something like that. We'll get more details on that, but he's going to make a decision sooner than later, we expect. But that's going to wrap up on our baseball talk. It was a lot, and we were very excited to kind of get over this. We have one audience assist from Jay Cluck, and we're going to get that going right now as well. Ben, do you want to share that audience assist?
I'd be more than happy to share this audience assist from Jake Cluck. How about the Guardians hiring the MLB's first female full-time head coach? Would love your take on what Alyssa Nakin can add to AL Manager of the Year
Vos
staff.
Yeah. You want to start with this one?
Sure. I mean, as a girl dad with 2 daughters, it's nice to see girls trailblazing into the industry. But sports is where if you're good as a player, as a coach, as an executive, if you are the best, you will get the job. And I commend them for making the right decision, not making it about that. And I think that when you look at it, she's done everything the right way. And she was a star softball player at Sacramento State. So I think that it's really cool to see that go. And I hope that she inspires other girls.
Sacramento State Hornets, not to get them mixed up with the Charlotte Hornets, who are an NBA team. But you said it perfectly. If you're doing it right, you deserve an opportunity. It doesn't matter who you are or what you are. And if you're putting the work in there and you're able to develop these players to get to the best versions of themselves and you're doing it well, You deserve to be in anywhere. And yes, this is great for all the women out there and all the little girls out there who want to learn baseball and now have someone to look up to. And hopefully we see more of this. You know, if you're someone who's capable of doing this and doing it well, you deserve an opportunity to be here on this stage with all these baseball coaches. I know it's a male-dominant industry, but we're starting to see females getting in here, and it's a great thing because they obviously have a great mind for the sport, coming from their backgrounds as players, playing in college, and now coming into it and really putting their whole lives in front of this. So, I mean, this is a great thing. Stephen Vo is obviously a fantastic manager, so he knows what he's doing, bringing in some of the best around him. So I think this is only going to get them to the next level. I know they just traded Andres Jimenez. We didn't really talk about that because that wasn't a free agent thing.
I will say, I don't think that's going to stop the Yankees from pounding on them, but I think that
On the Blue Jays?
no, I don't think bringing her in is going to stop the Yankees from pounding on them, but I think that bringing in a qualified assistant director of player development definitely raises everyone around you.
Sure, absolutely. And the Yankees are not taking the foot off the pedal because of this by any means. But it's still going to be great to see specifically what happens for the Guardians itself and how they're able to develop some of these players. They've been doing a great job so far, and I only expect them to continue to do so well because they know what they're doing. They're bringing in the right staff around them to help these players out and become the best versions of themselves. So I think this was a great pickup for them, and I'm excited to see how her career turns out in the MLB.
Yeah.
Great episode. I mean, I know we didn't do as much, but we kind of honed in, and we wanted to give you guys some real content about some real stuff happening in the MLB world, and we want to hear from you guys. So please shout away. Let us know if you liked what we just did. If you want to see some different stuff as well, we want to hear you guys in the chats, commenting away, viewing away, letting us know that we're crazy, specifically me, because we all know how much I love being told I am crazy. So tell me, Harry, you are crazy, man. That was one of the craziest takes you've ever said. How could you say something like that? Let us know. And guess what happens? If you do that, there's a good chance you could get on the screen with us and let us know in person. We have 3 seats right here. You want to come down, join us. Or if you want to go on Zoom, not a problem. We got it all just for you guys. We're here for you guys as well as us. So let's get this thing rolling. We're super happy to keep doing this on a weekly basis. We love our fans. We love Ben over here. We couldn't do this without him, and we're having a blast getting this done for you guys. So thank you so much. Josh, let them know where they can watch us.
Yeah, you can catch us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And I just want to say, Ben, if you could make that monologue a little clip that's a beautiful social media thing right there to show everyone the passion that we both have for bringing other people in.
Already on it, baby.
Oh, you like my passion, I see. Okay, I respect that.
Yeah.
I do have some passion. I do say this. I have just a little bit of passion, but
I want to make sure if you rock with us, you're getting your swag on. Beyond the Score merch is available. We made it the lowest possible price that the website will allow to make sure we're not doing that for profit. We get so happy when people comment, when people.
Josh, can you stand up so I can see that full? Can you stand up so I can see that full shirt?
Absolutely.
Oh, look at that!
Yeah, that's is that what color is that shirt, by the way? Is that like a light blue?
It's like a light blue.
Yeah.
Oh, I like
I
it.
like it.
I like
Yeah,
it.
it's
I like
nice.
it.
We got 5 different colors. And I think that.
You got one for every
Yeah.
day of the week or the weekdays. At least.
Yeah.
Well,
But
you got something to say? You want to add to that? Go for it.
I was just gonna say that I really appreciate Jason and Matt and everyone that gives us these audience assists, but to have people keep coming back is something that we know that we have people consistently watching, and we only want to grow that, and we want to make it the best for you.
Thank you guys again. And let's not forget our best part. Now, we're changing it up a little bit. We do our yogiisms normally. This week, we're going to do something called a Harryism. And this was the one that I just created on the fly as I was just talking. And I was like, wow, slowly by slowly, I'm starting to turn into Yogi Berra over here. But here's the Harryism.
Slowly by slowly.
Slowly by slowly. But here's my Harryism for the week. We're always funny sometimes. Guys, we'll see you next week on Beyond the Score podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we're excited to see you guys next week.